Look at your calendar right now. Does it reflect what you say matters most to you? For most people, there's a profound disconnect between stated values and how they actually spend their limited time. In this video, I will challenge you to confront this misalignment before it becomes a regret for you. I'll walk you through the exact process for you to take to identify your core values, simplify your priorities, and create a one-page system that can clarify every future decision for you. By the end, you'll have a practical tool that transforms overwhelm into empowered, intentional living. Let's look at the problem: living someone else's life. When was the last time you made a major life decision based entirely on what you wanted, not what someone else expected of you? Take a moment to really think about this. For many of us, the uncomfortable truth is that we can't remember, or perhaps it's never happened at all. Most of us live according to external expectations, moving through life, following scripts written by others. Parents who wanted us to pursue certain careers, society that defines success through specific achievements, or colleagues whose approval we sought and we tried to follow their pathway. Even social media that shapes our desires through carefully curated displays of what life should look like. We absorb these expectations so completely that we often mistake them for our own authentic desires. This isn't just speculation. Research reveals that 76% of people report making major life decisions based on others' expectation rather than their own personal values. Just think about that just for a moment. 3 out of 4 people are directing their precious, limited time on earth according to someone else's vision for their own life. Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse who spent years working with patients in the final weeks of their lives, documented something profound in her research. The number one regret expressed by the dying was, "I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me." Now, these weren't people regretting failure or lack of achievement. They were mourning the absence of authenticity, which is lives spent fulfilling external expectations while their true selves remained unexpressed till the date of their death. The psychological cost of this misalignment is significant. When your actions consistently contradict your authentic belief and desires, you experience cognitive dissonance, a state of mental tension that creates persistent dissatisfaction. You might recognize this as that vague feeling that something isn't right, something isn't in the right place for you, even when everything in your life looks successful by all external standards. Now, this misalignment creates a slow erosion of identity over time. You may become increasingly skilled at performing roles that don't reflect your authentic self. You excel at work you don't find meaningful. You maintain relationships that don't nourish you. You pursue goals that bring recognition but never fulfillment. And with each passing year, you become a stranger to yourself. What makes this problem particularly insidious is how it compounds over time. Small compromises, taking a certain job just for now, postponing a passion until the time is just right, and choosing security over meaning just for this once. Gradually, this becomes a life pattern, and they are increasingly difficult to break. The longer you live someone else's version of your life, the harder it becomes to find your way back to authenticity. Many of us fall into what I call the postponement trap. I'll focus on what matters after I achieve X. But here's the cruel reality: X keeps changing. First, it's after college, then after establishing your career, then after financial security, then after your children have grown up. The meaningful life keeps getting pushed into a future that never arrives, while the present, the only time you actually have, slips away every day. You might recognize yourself in this pattern. Perhaps you feel it when you catch yourself looking forward to retirement so you can finally do what you want. Or when you realize you're living for the weekends, holidays, or vacations, small islands of freedom in a sea of compromise which you signed up to. Now, this, my friend, this way of living transforms your life into a perpetual waiting room where authentic living is eternally deferred. How can you identify your core values and prevent living someone else's life? That is the cornerstone, isn't it? By creating decision-making filters that immediately reveal when you're deviating from your authentic path. When you know what truly matters to you, not what should matter according to others, each choice then becomes clearer. The question transforms from what will others think of this decision I'm going to make to does this align with who I truly am? And that should be the only question. Consider how this might work in practice for you. If connection with loved ones is genuinely a core value for you, accepting that promotion requiring constant travel creates immediate internal friction, does it not? And if creativity is central to your authentic self, remaining in work that offers security but no creative expression becomes recognizably unsustainable, at least in terms of your fulfillment. Now your values becomes a compass that consistently points towards your true north. This awareness, the recognition of how external expectations have shaped your choices, is the very first step towards reclaiming your life. But I need to be honest with you. The path gets more challenging before it gets easier. Awareness without action creates its own form of suffering. Once you see how your life has been guided by others' expectations, continuing along that same path becomes increasingly painful. That's why, in the next section, I'm going to examine the high cost of postponed living with you. What happens when we continue to sacrifice our authentic priorities while telling ourselves it's just temporary? Understanding this cost creates the necessary motivation for the practical solutions I'll share later. Because becoming aware of the problem is only valuable if it leads to meaningful change. The agitation, the high cost of postponed living. What if you could see a visual representation of all the hours you spent on activities that don't align with what you claim matters the most? Imagine a timeline of your life with color coding: green for time spent on your stated priorities and red for everything else. For most people, that timeline would reveal an uncomfortable truth. The green sections are remarkably small compared to the vast stretches of red. We routinely sacrifice our stated priorities while telling ourselves it's temporary or necessary. We miss family dinners for work. We postpone calling friends because we are busy. We abandon creative projects because practical demands take precedence. Each decision seems reasonable in isolation. Together, they create a pattern of postponed living, where what matters most consistently receives a leftover time and energy. Consider this sobering fact. The average person spends 90,000 hours at work over their lifetime. And by work, I mean your corporate work, your career, your profession to an employer. Now, that's roughly 1/3 of your adult waking hours. Yet, studies show 85% of people report feeling unfulfilled in their jobs or employment. Now think about that disconnect. The majority of your conscious existence devoted to activities that don't provide fulfillment. That sounds tragic, doesn't it? When we examine this pattern over decades rather than days, the magnitude of misalignment becomes starkly clear. This stark reality connects directly to the second most common regret Bronnie Ware identified among the dying patients. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Now, this regret was particularly common among male patients who realized too late that they had missed their children's youth and their partner's companionship. The tragedy wasn't the work itself, but the imbalance, the systematic sacrifice of relationships and personal development on the altar of professional advancement. Time perception psychology reveals a critical insight that makes this situation even worse. We experience time differently based on novelty and meaning. Routine, monotonous experiences compress in our memory, while novel, meaningful moments, they expand. This means that years filled with the same commute, same meetings at work, and the same evening routine feel shorter in retrospect than even a few days of rich, varied experience. Think about it. Your vacation you took, that 1 week off in a year. Doesn't that stay in your mind for decades to come? Why is that? It's because you were most fulfilled at that time, is it not? Now, our time rich years paradoxically feel shortest when filled with routine, creating the sensation that life accelerated just when we thought we had plenty of time. The relationship cost of postponed living is equally concerning. Research indicates that friendships require approximately 200 hours of interaction to develop closeness. Yet, the average adult dedicates less than 2 hours weekly to friendship maintenance. At that rate, building a single close friendship takes nearly 2 years, assuming those hours are consistent. With friendship consistently relegated to when I have time, many adults find themselves with increasingly shallow social connections that provide little emotional nourishment. That likes, the follows, the subscribers. They're not friends, are they? Now, beyond the relationship costs lies what I call the emotional suppression tax. Not expressing feelings, the third major regret identified in Ware's research, creates genuine biological consequences. Studies show that emotional suppression leads to increased stress hormones and decreased immune function. Your body literally pays the price for unexpressed truth, unacknowledged pain, and unlived desires. What seems like emotional efficiency, pushing feelings aside to focus on what matters, creates a health deficit that compounds over time. Perhaps the most telling insight comes from how our perspective shifts as mortality approaches. Those facing death rarely express concern about professional achievements, financial status, or social standing. They don't care because they were never important in the first place. Instead, relationships gain prominence. Authentic experiences become precious. Simple pleasures take on profound significance. But why wait for your impending death to adopt this clear perspective? The tragedy lies in needing the stark confrontation with mortality to recognize what truly matters for you. What's your psychological cost of postponing what truly matters to you? It's a life of accumulating regret, diminished well being, and the painful awareness that time, unlike money, can never be earned back. Each postponement creates a small tear in your sense of integrity as your actions contradict your values each and every day. These tears accumulate, creating a fragmented self that struggles to feel whole or present, and that's why you don't feel fulfilled. You might recognize this fragmentation in everyday experiences, checking email during family time while telling yourself family comes first, skipping exercise for weeks despite believing in self-care, or watching another year pass without progress on your creative projects while insisting they do matter to you. Each contradiction creates internal friction that depletes mental energy and erodes your well-being. This recognition of postponed living creates necessary discomfort. It should feel uncomfortable to confront how your daily choices may contradict your stated values. This discomfort serves as the catalyst for meaningful change. But your awareness alone isn't enough. Without a practical framework for realignment, the recognition of postponed living simply adds another layer of distress to an already complex life. That's why, in the next section, I'm going to introduce to you the one-page life clarity system. It's a practical framework that I've developed over the last 4 years that transforms this awareness into tangible action. Rather than adding complexity to your life, this system distills your multiple priorities, purposes, and a personal legacy plan into a single powerful page of 58 clarity points that guides everyday decisions with clarity and confidence. The goal isn't perfect alignment, but it's a conscious choice. Knowing when you're sacrificing what matters most and making that sacrifice deliberately rather than by default, and choosing only that matters the most. Let's talk about the solution, the one-page life clarity system. What would change if every decision you made was filtered through a single powerful page that distilled your core values and priorities? Imagine having immediate clarity about whether a choice moves you toward or away from what matters most. This isn't about rigid rules, but about creating a compass that guides you through life's complexity with confidence. The one-page life clarity system transforms abstract values into concrete decision-making tools. Most of us carry vague notions of what matters: family, purpose, contribution, if I had asked you. But these concepts remain too abstract to guide your daily choices. When deciding whether to work late or attend your child's events, general values like family matters or professional excellence compete without any clear resolution. They don't guide you. The one-page system bridges this gap by translating values into specific guidance. Most clarity exercises fail for two reasons. Either they're too complex to implement consistently, elaborate systems that require constant maintenance, or they're too vague to provide actionable guidance. You might complete a values exercise that tells you connection matters, but when Friday evening arrives and you're deciding between answering emails or calling a friend, that abstract value provides little direction. It just becomes a concept. The one-page system solves both problems through elegant simplicity. Let me share the 5 steps that can bring the system to life for you. And this is only a summary, it's not the entire system. Step 1 is value identification using the peak experience method. Instead of starting with aspirational values, what you think you should matter, you begin by examining moments when you felt most alive, fulfilled, and authentic. What were you doing? Who were you with? What made those moments meaningful? This approach uncovers your authentic values rather than socially approved ones. You might discover that creativity energizes you more than achievement, or that meaningful conversation matters more than social recognition. Step 2 involves value consolidation, grouping similar values into themes and identifying central patterns. If your peak experiences reveal values like learning, discovery, growth, mastery, you might consolidate them into a core value of continuous development. This process transforms an unwieldy list into a manageable set of guiding principles that capture what truly matters. Step 3 addresses priority ranking, the difficult but essential process of honestly determining what matters most when values compete. This isn't about devaluing certain priorities, but acknowledging that time is finite. When your child is sick and an important work deadline looms, which takes precedence? When your health needs conflict with family obligations, how do you choose? Honest ranking creates clarity in moments of conflict. Step 4 creates a decision framework through simple if then statements that apply your values to everyday choices. For example, if an opportunity arises that advances my career but reduces family time by more than 20%, then I will decline unless it offers exceptional fulfillment in another core value area. These statements transform abstract values into practical guidance that applies to real situations that you face every day. Step 5 focuses on unsubscribing from everything else that doesn't really matter, whether it be your roles, responsibilities, commitments you have accumulated over decades, subconsciously or consciously, and that you've added to your life unnecessarily. You need to hit unsubscribe radically to declutter your mind and heart rapidly. Then you will have a one-page of digital life plan to make clear decisions without any stress and zero regrets. For a clear, guided, step-by-step process and help to guide you to do this, you can visit logicalretreat.com. How does understanding your values help you? How does understanding your mortality actually improve your daily decisions? By creating urgency that cuts through trivial concerns. And it provides a clear framework for evaluating what deserves your limited time on this earth. When you truly internalize that your time is finite, not as an intellectual concept, but as an emotional reality, the false urgency of many demands falls away. The question transforms from, can I fit this in, to, is this worthy of my limited lifetime? The one-page system exists as a physical document you can reference when making decisions. Its power comes from accessibility, complex values distilled into guidance you can actually use in the moment of choice. Some people keep it in their wallet, purses, others frame it on their walls, on their desk. Still, others set it up as their phone background. The format matters less than having it available when your key life decisions arise. This system doesn't just clarify decisions, it transforms how you experience time itself. When your choices consistently align with what matters most, each day becomes an intentional expression of your authentic self, rather than a reaction to external demands. The sense of fragmentation many people experience, feeling pulled in multiple directions, gives way to a coherent sense of purpose, where even difficult choices feel grounded in what matters. You might wonder whether such clarity limits spontaneity or flexibility. In practice, the opposite occurs. When your foundation is secure, when you know what matters most, you gain freedom to experiment and adapt within that framework you've built. Like a jazz musician who understands music theory deeply enough to improvise beautifully. Knowing your core values creates liberation rather than limitation. The one-page life clarity system offers what most of us secretly crave, the confidence that comes from knowing your choices reflect what truly matters to you, not what someone else believes should matter. It transforms the abstract concept of living with purpose into practical daily reality. In conclusion, the question isn't whether you'll reach the end of your life, but whether you'll arrive there having lived in alignment with what truly matters to you. As Seneca 2000 years back reminds us, you live as if you are destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head. The one-page life clarity system offers freedom from living someone else's life and the regret of postponed living. Marcus Aurelius, again 2000 years back, wrote this beautiful book. And he wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Your journey toward intentional living begins with a single page that transforms an overwhelm into clarity. At the heart of every decision is what you value. Make yours count. Thank you.